Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Bianca Golodriga in for Cristiana Amanpour in New York. We begin with one of the world's most complicated and consequential geopolitical relationships. Two great superpowers with the fate of an island between them, which stands to shape the course of our immediate history. Despite a recent diplomatic push to reset relations with China, the Biden administration has now announced a weapons package worth as much as $345 million for Taiwan's self-defense. The United States has allowed Taiwan to buy its weapons before, but this deal delivers equipment directly from existing U.S. inventories for the first time, making its transfer and deployment much quicker. Beijing has repeatedly demanded that the U.S., which is Taiwan's most important arms supplier, stop the sale of weapons to the island. Which all begs the question, what is the administration's strategy on China, and how will the dispute over Taiwan's sovereignty play out? Representative Raja Krishnamurthy is a top-ranking Democrat on the House China Committee on China, and he was with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi when she controversially visited Taiwan last August, causing a major rupture in what was already tense U.S.-China relations. Representative Krishnamurthy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. So you welcome this move by the White House for the first time, providing military aid to Taiwan through its stockpiles as opposed to just selling the weapons. Why did you do this? Why do you approve of it? And what do you make of the announcement on a Friday afternoon, seemingly under the radar?
Well, I think that it's very important that we deter conflict across the Taiwan Strait between the Chinese Communist Party and Taiwan. And the only way to deter that conflict is to make sure that we supply Taiwan with enough articles of defense to build up its deterrence. Taiwan has already acquired roughly $19 billion worth of weapons that have yet to be delivered, mainly because of issues in our military supply, industrial supply base. And so using presidential drawdown authority to basically give them articles of defense from our supplies and then backfill later seems appropriate right now.
You say this is a sign of deterrence. How are you so confident that this isn't perhaps something that will instead embolden China to react?
Well, I think that the CCP respects strength, and they view Taiwan as weak. And that's why, in part, Xi Jinping feels as though he can command the military to be ready by 2027 to militarily or coercively reunify, quote unquote, reunify the mainland with Taiwan. And so the best way to prevent that is to make sure that they understand that the costs of trying to coercively reunify the island far exceed the benefits. And so building up that deterrence right now is very, very important.
Let's talk about the response we've seen thus far from China. China's Taiwan Affairs Office said no matter how much of the ordinary people's taxpayer money the United States is using, the Taiwanese separatist forces spend, no matter how many U.S. weapons, it will not shake our resolve to solve the Taiwan problem or shake our firm will to realize the reunification of our motherland. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy went on to say, U.S., stop selling arms to Taiwan, stop creating new factors that could lead to tensions in the Taiwan Strait, and stop posing risks to peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. What do you make of how China is responding to this announcement?
Well, these comments are rather shrill. Of course, they sound a little rich to me in light of the fact that they have engaged in rather provocative behavior in the Taiwan Strait. They've sent dozens of airplanes, naval ships, even missiles across the Taiwan Strait in recent months and years. And therefore, this type of militarily aggressive behavior would naturally cause the Taiwan people to want to defend themselves with even more vigor. And so that's why we are providing them with more equipment to do so. We are indeed obligated to do so under the Taiwan Relations Act, even at the same time that we observe the One China policy. I would just close by saying, let's make sure that if there are differences between the CCP and the Taiwan government, that they are resolved peacefully. That is what our original understanding with the CCP was, and that's what we would ask them to continue to observe.
Well, it's coming at a very tense time, obviously, in relations between the two countries, and there's an upcoming election in Taiwan as well. We saw how China responded after your visit with then Speaker Pelosi last year. It wasn't just through terse statements. Obviously, we saw some of the highest level military exercises performed by China immediately after your visit. Are you concerned at all that this announcement may, in fact, unnecessarily put more pressure on Taiwan at a time when, as I mentioned, they've got internal dynamics and elections that they're really focused on as well?
Well, the Taiwan government wants these weapons. They want these articles of defense to build up their deterrence. And again, if the price of the CCP not engaging in further provocative behavior is to basically leave the Taiwanese people defenseless, that's not going to happen.
This is coming at a time where, as in the intro we mentioned, the United States is walking a tightrope here, trying to reestablish relations amongst highest level officials in both countries. We saw Secretary of State Blinken visit Treasury Secretary Yellen as well. And at the same time, we found out that the Chinese officials and hackers had gotten access to some U.S. government emails. In the meantime, how do you interpret and how do you tell constituents when asked what is the state of U.S.-China relations, and how do you separate this aid to Taiwan from wanting to maintain stable relations with the country?
Well, it's very timely you asked me that, because I have a town hall meeting coming up with my constituents. Basically, the way that they express their views about the situation is, on the one hand, they are very concerned about aggressive behavior by the CCP, militarily, economically, and technologically, including with regard to these cyber hacks. Roughly 67% of cyber hacks, according to the FBI, that are committed in the United States are launched from the PRC, People's Republic of China. So they are very concerned about that militaristic and aggressive behavior. At the same time, we don't want an open conflict. That's something that they expressed to me. And so we have to make sure that we can engage with the CCP in a way that puts guardrails on the relationship, but protects our values and protects our interests at the same time.